On every September 11th, I'm reminded that Flight 93 was the bravest act I've ever seen. But it's more than that. It's a lesson that teaches you how to deal with all challenges. How does an amazing, selfless act 16 years ago help you now? Well, what have you thought about their heroic response to terror in times when you are experiencing hardship? Look, I'm not saying that foiling a hijacking and saving thousands of lives, maybe even the president's, is like breaking a leg or getting food poisoning. But that's the point. It relegates all challenges to their appropriate place in the universe. And then, on top of it, it gives you a model response for all of them. Let's roll. It's the perfect mindset against fear and pain, and it works anywhere. It's a fact. You can't hold more than one thought in your head. Go ahead. Try to pay attention to two thoughts right now. You can't do it. When you're faced with a stressful event, we fill our heads with just one thing, and that's fear. It's in charge, but it shouldn't be. They should. So when you're faced with something daunting, what if you simply thought about the passengers of Flight 93? Don't rely on yourself for inspiration. Go to them. Thinking like 93 obliterates the prison of your ego you get over yourself. So 9/11 isn't about never forgetting. It's about using it to forget yourself, turning their powerful act into a powerful tool to grab when times are tough for you. Let the souls of Flight 93 help you. Their assistance is eternal, their gift to you. Lord knows we could use it. It sounds really shallow, maybe, Dana, but I do think, when I'm anxious, I think about this.
I don't think that sounds shallow at all. I think it sounds smart. So last September, I got to go to Shanksville, and I hadn't had a chance before, even when I worked for the president, and it was very emotional, and I can understand why, why Vice President Pence choked up today. I imagine that he had probably just gone through the exhibit, and in the exhibit, you have the opportunity to pick up the phone receiver and listen to several of the phone calls that were made from passengers on that flight. Here's another thing about how remarkable they were, Greg. They voted. Right, so it wasn't. There was chaos, and but they took a vote, and which is probably the absolutely most American thing that you can do. And let's roll, as you said, that reminded me of my favorite Bible verse. Is only two words. It is fear not. So it is. I thought your message is very good about how on 9/11, it's like that's the longest day ever, the day that never ends. And there's before 9/11 and after 9/11. Right. And after 9/11, you actually have something like the passengers of Flight 93 to give you a sense of bravery and courage.
Yeah, it just, Kimberly, it's not to diminish any other acts of heroism that day. I just feel like there's a message here about a mindset of knowing you're doomed, and you're going to do you're going to go and you're going to fight, and you know that you're going to do good.
I mean, to me, it's just so symbolic of, the American dream and fighting for what you believe in, and solidarity, coming together, being fearless in the face of evil and adversity, and deciding to come together for the greater good, for the possibility to save lives, and untold even further tragedy than one experienced by this country, by people being brave and sacrificing themselves. I mean, really, there is no greater sacrifice, there is no greater honor or commitment that you could make to your country and to those people that you don't even know, but you share a common bond and a unity, as Americans, and people that, love and cherish this country, and said, listen, we're going to do something about this. We're going to take ownership of this, and we're not going to let them, have their way. I mean, God bless them. It's very touching.
Juan, do you worry that, it's been 16 years, and with time, it just wears away memory? People move on. They don't think it, because we haven't had anything that devastating. We've kind of let our guards down, or?
Well, you know what, I remember being struck by the period right after 9/11, so this is 16 years ago, Greg, that no matter where you went, there were flags, red, white, and blue, and people were so proud to be an American. People did not hesitate to say, you know what, I know which side I'm on. I'm standing with the Americans here, and you saw that globally, in addition. And today, by contrast, 16 years later, it's not simply that there's so many young people who you say really don't remember. It's that even among us as the adults in the room, there's so much division and so much of the kind of constantly harping at each other. And maybe this goes back to, focusing on things that are small, but nonetheless give you the opportunity to skewer somebody, or stick your finger and say, you were an idiot or something, as opposed to saying, hey, wait a second. I know what counts. You know, for anybody who's ever been overseas, for all the back and forth that we have as Americans, you go overseas, there's no question. You're an American. People see you as an American. You feel it. You miss home, all of the stuff that we take for granted. And on that day, I remember, you know, being in D.C., I remember being in fear because people were worried, as the vice president was saying, not only about the plane that we heard that was headed towards the Capitol, but that there were subsequent attacks then planned for the State Department and for other areas. And my son was in a school right across from the Pentagon. President Trump today spoke about a policeman at the Pentagon who rushed in and saved 20 people. This, to me, is America at its best in terms of the response. What came afterwards, arguments about the war, the Patriot Act, all that, even that, to me, is important. But I do lament the idea that 16 years later, some of us can't even talk. That, to me, is crazy. We're Americans.
Jesse, last words and whatever you want.
I mean, Flight 93 makes me just so proud to be an American, to learn your plane is a weapon and it's on a suicide mission by Islamic kamikazes, and then rush the cockpit and do hand-to-hand combat with guys with box cutters and then wrestle the yoke away and then down the plane to survive. It's incredible. It was the first time the enemy really saw the bravery, but it wasn't the last. And, you know, there were a lot of heroes that night or that day. And that was because they were united on United Flight 93. It wasn't just, you know, one single person that went and took the plane down. It was people that united from all races and creeds and colors to take the plane down. Because the terrorists, they don't care if you're black or white or whatever. You're an American, and they don't discriminate. So the terrorists only see us versus them. And I think we need to rise up and say, you know what, we're going to unite and do this. But we're so divided right now because politicians and the press prey on these divisions in order to exploit hatred for money or for ratings. You have the Antifa versus the Nazis, men versus women, Black Lives Matter versus police. And we've lost a lot of unity in this country. And I think, you know, after 9/11, it kind of subsided, but now you have the hurricanes coming back around the same time as this anniversary. And it gives us an opportunity to say, you know, we're all Americans. Let's find that solidarity again, and let's try to preserve that, because there's going to be more storms and more wars that we're going to face together.
All right.